Today, Precarious plays
Phantom Brave. In earlier editions of Dungeons & Dragons, I have heard detailed. This is deep lore.
Deep lore.
It was before my time.
Around the campfires of old.
Right. I have heard the effects of lightning bolt and fireball of past editions described, and it sounds way... It sounds more appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning bolt. It would evidently pierce targets and travel in a line, and it would rebound from surfaces. Right?
Like a bolt of lightning?
Well, I mean...
Close enough. Like a magical, like an ensorcelled bolt of lightning?
Like you've got a very heavy-duty laser pointer, and you're playing in laser tag? Like, it's like a laser tag in a hall of mirrors, I guess. The point is that you could bank it off walls to do like a sawtooth blending of enemies down a hallway. Fireball, in a similar capacity, it was volumetric. That was a weird noise, like, oh, I don't have any interest in that. Yeah, I think it would probably really drag.
It would just fill up whatever...
Yeah, so the idea is like
we have 10 cubic feet of fire. What space are you standing in?
Well, the idea was any runoff would create like a concussive wave, or it would rebound in some kind of logical way. It wasn't just this magical of fire. Mm-hmm. It was an explosion. I think that's the big distinction. The fireball now, it really is just, it's this...
hotspot.
Yeah, it doesn't make much logical sense. It's just, it's more like a fire wave. Mm-hmm. Maybe like Din's fire from Ocarina of Time. In the past, it was a bomb. It was an explosion. If you tried to cast it in a tiny little hallway, it would expand to its full volume in either direction, down the hall. Yeah. From what has been described to me, that is how it works. I don't know. I haven't read the spell description. Maybe I was misled, or maybe that individual was misremembering. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they were remembering some advanced edition of that spell. It just sounds... The additional fidelity to a world sounds compelling. That sounds like a trouble worth going through. So you really do have like this lost version of Fireball, of Lightning Bolt, that can exist in the game world, but it also exists in real life, which I think is neat. We were talking about
accidental magic in a realm that has magic. Like, for example, we would suppose that in the realms that are inhabited by the characters of Full Metal Alchemist, their magic being alchemy and transmutation, a thorough understanding of that magic might allow them to stumble into necromancy.
Essentially, I think a way to describe what you're saying is that if you have, if you can cast transmutation at 5th level,
Yeah.
maybe you can accidentally cast necromancy at 2nd level.
Because of how all of the magic is connected in that world.
Right.
Yeah, and
Science.
Second
We keep calling it magic. It's science. I think that the characters would be offended
Yeah.
to be called.
They would want to be called alchemists.
Yeah, because they're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
That's what they are.
Anyways, in D&D, you can probably do that by the same sort of logic, because everybody in D&D is working with pretty much the same stuff. Don't you think?
Only if the campaign. Actually, no, because there's an implication in the most recent Artificer draft. One of the games that we're playing in, there's an Artificer. Mm-hmm.
What, they're not all working with the same universal principles of sympathy?
Artificers. Let's go. In the newest draft, it explicitly says that artificers just use invented doodads to cast their spells.
So they're not messing with the weave in any way, shape, or form.
Unless it's a gadget that messes with the weave. If they create a grenade that handles the tricky business of bundling a bunch of weave energy together, causing the particles to bounce off of one another and create an explosion.
The weave is what D&D uses, right? I'm not making that up.
The Forgotten Realms, by default, I think, uses the weave. I don't know how widespread it is otherwise. But yeah, so it's this sort of, I like it, but God, I could see it being a really frustrating canonization.
Yeah.
Saying like, okay, well, yeah, magic, sure, but also science. If you science hard enough,
you can magic.
You can actually, any spell on the Artificer's spell list, evidently, can be recreated purely through a combination of engineering and magical theory.
That implies a level of knowledge of magic and how it acts in that world that is a little bit crazy for me to think about.
Well, the weird thing is that it's a big ask for something that might not actually. At the end of the day, it creates a scenario where narratively, your Artificer doesn't run out of spell slots or spell points, depending on what system you're using.
Uh-huh.
You, like, run out of junk. You run out of stuff that's on hand.
Oh. Do you have, like, a limit to how much stuff on hand you're allowed to carry?
No, but I mean,
what
yes.
What the heck?
Well, no, here's the thing. That this is actually a perfect example of what I was talking about. You still run on spell slots or spell points. It's just the method of describing a spell slot or a spell point. It is a meta-narrative construct.
Yes.
Your characters might not necessarily have any idea of what a spell slot is. They just know, I have to exert myself magically by this value.
Yeah.
I probably have it in me to do this 3 or 4 times in a day, right?
Yeah, I am not convinced that wizards and spell slingers of all kinds everywhere in D&D run around going, oh, yeah, got 3 slots left. Like, they wouldn't call them slots. I mean, would they? Are there physical holes and indentions?
That's actually, that could be pretty compelling, because then you have that reminds me of Outlaw Star.
Yeah.
A little bit with the shells that the protagonist fires from his
Yeah,
his gun.
yeah. I mean, maybe, but it's not described anywhere, so that's just a,
But it could
fan
be.
theory.
But it could
be, and it's not.
But it could be.
But it could
This is
be.
D&D.
This is D&D, you're right. One of the things that I run into regularly thinking about D&D is the futility of worrying about the rule system past a certain point because it's fucking D&D.
Right.
Like the world.
All of this only works this way because we're agreeing that it does.
Yes, exactly, and the reality is dependent upon the people who are sitting around the table.
Yeah, because if everyone decides all at once that Revivify is just too much, and it removes all of the stakes from the game, then maybe Revivify should just quietly be forgotten about.
Yeah.
Just by all participating parties.
What?
Then that Revivify just blinks out of existence, just like that. It's pretty cool.
Or if a party decides that they're not keeping track of rations or
encumbrance
or the doodads that you use to make stuff for the spells to go.
Oh no, so here's the thing. You should almost
What are those actually
definitely
called first?
What do you mean?
The stuff, not the junk for the class that you were talking about. The reagents,
spell components.
Spell components, yes.
Material components.
Material components, yes. Material, somatic, yes. Okay, gosh. Sometimes my brain just loses words.
Well, I mean, even the base game kind of hand waves an overwhelming majority of material components. If it doesn't have a gold cost associated with it, I think that you can actually, unless the table has decided otherwise, you can wave it away. Dick.
What an...
That was so smooth, though, that I'm
really
kind of
smooth.
I'm kind of impressed.
Slick.
That was my last turn too. Okay, I need to.
Yeah, but you already went back to if the table decides,
If the table decides that.
Yes.
What did I want to say? We're talking about Revivify.
I was talking about...
Oh, yeah, I've got it. So, material components, you can wave them away with a focus.
Right. And you can kind of pick that you have a focus equipped as part of character creation.
Yeah, just right from the get-go.
Yeah, I have a doodad, it's fine.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, you can then go out of your way to opt out of that in a... I don't want to say half-hearted, in a way that won't impede gameplay. Because there is a spell component pouch, which is functionally, as far as I am aware, identical to a spell focus, right? It just, whatever you need for a given spell, as long as the material component doesn't have a cost associated with it, you've got it in there. It's got it. Like your character takes on the burden of being an incredibly fastidious quartermaster. Pardon me, I got a burp. Quartermaster.
Which can be fun, depending on what table you're sitting at.
Well, no, I mean, like, the burden is on your character, not you.
Oh.
You can go the whole way and say, like, no, component pouches are just that. It's just a pouch. You as a player have to go out of your way to fill it up with the stuff you need. I've heard tales. I've never played in a game like this, although I've secretly always kind of wanted to. I've heard tales of people who have played like magic heavy, mage heavy games where it was important for everyone to keep track of their spell components.
It sounds a lot of bookkeeping. Sounds like a lot of bookkeeping to me.
Well, yeah, but it creates a scenario where Resident Evil springs to mind immediately. You can have a scenario where, like, I can't think of any spell components that are in the player's handbook that don't have that are costless.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to invent one. So let's say that there's like to cast Burning Hands. Let's say that the material component is like a powdered salamander scale. Right? That's probably
That's a good idea.
let's say that it's like a more mundane salamander,
Yeah.
not like a giant.
Crazy flaming salamander, just the kind that like you find in the woods sometimes under moist logs.
Right. So you can have a scenario where maybe you present a number of enemies that are weak to fire damage, and you present a particular number of salamander scales with the intention being, hey player, can you connect the dots? I'm leaving these here for you to use in a particular way.
Yeah.
If you don't pick up on it, that's fine. It's still probably going to do something to somebody. But just like, it's sort of like how in Resident Evil, you can throw a flash grenade at any enemy. I'm thinking about Resident Evil 4 specifically right now. You can throw a flash grenade at any enemy, but you're probably going to be better served by throwing it at something pretty big.
Yeah.
You know? Or, like, you can throw it at a single enemy if your HP is low and you desperately need to get past it.
Yeah.
But it might hurt later. It might hurt your feelings later whenever there's a horde of enemies and that flash grenade might have been better spent here rather than there.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little worried about this map. Let me play ahead again.
Okay.